Hirsch, and this is EdCast, a program created and produced by educators for everyone interested in education. The College Board recently unveiled its new version of the SAT, which students began taking in March. Today, the College Board comes to EdCast to discuss the new exam. Why was it changed, and what do test takers need to know? How is the College Board trying to level the playing field for minority students? We'll discuss the origins of the SAT and whether it's still relevant. All this and more today on EdCast. My guest today is Dr. Wendell D. Hall, Senior Director for Policy Advocacy in the College Board's Global Policy and Advocacy Division in Washington, D.C. His work focuses on developing policy proposals that will offer students greater opportunity. Prior to joining the College Board, he was Deputy Director at the Institute for Higher Education Policy and Director of Student Success and Research at the Association of Public and Land-Grant Universities. His expertise includes college access, diversity, financial aid, and K-16 STEM initiatives. Welcome to EdCast, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Dr. Hirsch. Thank you for having me.
There's a new SAT in town,
There is.
and everybody's talking about it.
That's a good thing. That's a good
Let me ask you, just to start, tell us a little bit about the origins of the SAT.
Great.
When did it begin and why?
Of course. So what most people don't know about the SAT is that the College Board started in 1900. Soon after 1901 was when the first college entrance exam was administered. In 1926, it became the SAT. The pillars of the SAT back then, when it was first founded, still hold today. It was trying to improve access for certain populations of students. Then, as you know, the history of the SAT, it was looking to help democratize education system. Oftentimes, prior to that point, those who gained access to the elite schools, the Ivy League institutions, were those who came from all-male, privileged.
The ruling class.
There we go, the ruling class, we might say. And at that point, we looked to try to do something different. The colleges that made up the College Board said, let's find a different way to figure out who are some of the students who should be connected to those types of opportunities. And those same pillars hold today with some of the recent changes that I'm sure we'll talk about in a bit.
Now, the SAT at the time, and when I took it, stood for a Scholastic Aptitude Test. Do you still feel that it's an aptitude test?
SAT is an achievement test.
An achievement test
and
now.
the name of it is just achievement.
Okay.
Or the SAT, I should say, is the name of the test now.
So they were really, so was that an initial test more of an IQ test almost to kind of pull out? I know it was the president of Harvard University, as you said, who wanted to identify boys who were talented but who did not have the opportunities that the other kids who went to Harvard.
Great question. It was really about that opportunity. How
Yeah.
can we provide this great opportunity to be connected to colleges, to more students? Because up to that point, you had to have privilege to even be in that applicant pool. So it was purposely looking to say, you know what, we want to shift this and provide these opportunities to many more students. Still holds today, excited about what we're doing.
Okay, you know, over the weekend, I came across some old SAT questions, and I thought they might be fun for us to take a look. Let's do it, right. Let's go back to 1901. 1901, now notice advanced Latin composition, okay? People had to be able to use Latin grammar and then translate into Latin, a quotation by Cicero. I think that is unbelievable, right? And these were the first sort of college, well, I don't even know if you were the College Board yet,
Yeah,
but
exactly,
you were.
correct.
These were the first exams given. I think the exams were English, French, German, Latin, Greek, history, math, and chemistry, and physics. And there were 973 test takers, and 60% of them applied to Columbia.
Wow.
There you go.
Wow.
That was
I hear you.
1901.
Wow.
So viewers, if you don't know Latin, you would not do well in 1901. What happens in 1926? Let's just take a look. Okay, 1926, this is the first official SAT, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so let's take a look. The numbers are arranged in accordance with a particular scheme, and the test taker has to know the numbers that come next in the series. I remember something like that when I took the SAT, yes? And this was a complete multiple choice exam, and now there were 8,000 students taking the exam, and again, 60% male. Everybody's male. I believe there were also some subtests in 1926, math, antonyms, number series, analogies, paragraph reading. Then we get a little more contemporary. Let's look at 1999. Okay, so I remember this too. You have to fill in the sentence with the vocabulary words that make sense. The general view of gorillas as menacing, ferocious King Kongs was not successfully blank until Diane Fossey's field studies in the 60s show gorillas to be peaceable, rather faint-hearted creatures unlikely to blank humans. I say the answer is E.
I'm going to agree. I'm going to agree with you on that.
We're going to go with that one, right? So here you go, and this again is more familiar to me, certainly the kind of SAT that I took. So that's 1999. When was the SAT changed last, prior to this new one that we're looking at?
In 2005.
In 2005.
Correct.
Okay, so you say the purpose is still similar to what the purpose always was. Tell us again, what is the purpose of the SAT from your perspective?
Great question. And even looking back at those earlier test questions that you showed and the most recent exam change, it's important that, you know, with the newest SAT change, it's all aligned. You know, we want to be very purposeful to ensure that the work that we're doing with the College Board is connecting students, the work that they're currently doing in high school, and to what we know matters for college and career success moving forward. From the pre-March 2016 exam to the most recent exam, a few things have changed. One, we've gotten rid of some of those words that I know you love, love, love so much, the vocabulary.
What's wrong with vocabulary, people? I don't know.
The great thing about it is that as the College Board, we want the test to be reflective of what students are actually doing in school. You know, one of the things that we didn't like, and we heard about it, we read about it, the kids who hated reading a flashcard and memorizing a word just for a split second, and then after the test they didn't use it anymore. We'd much prefer you to use words that you're going to use in college and, you know, in career and beyond. Words that you can actually understand in context versus a word that you memorize but will never use again.
Okay. My only answer to that is, and I must say here, speaking for all of us who try to have a better vocabulary, is that you may not use those words when you speak, but you see them when you read. And it really helps to know what lachrymose means and phlegmatic. When you read things that are outside of just your college textbook, you actually see some vocabulary. And so I don't know that it, you know, again, I do understand, I'm not going to belabor it, but I certainly feel that, you know, having a vocabulary that allows you to see nuances of words, you are certainly correct that learning them off a flashcard or not in context and never using them again is a waste of time. And maybe what we're saying is that students aren't reading enough anyway to see the words like I do, maybe would. You know, but that said, okay,
I'm agreeing. I still
so
think
we have more practical vocabulary.
more practical vocabulary.
Okay, what else
also,
are we looking at?
no penalty for guessing.
That's a good one. No
That's
penalty
a penalty.
for guessing.
No
Yeah,
penalty
that's
for
good.
guessing. We've also went back to the old scoring system of 1600. So we have two sections. We have evidence-based reading and writing, and we have math. And now the third section that was on the previous SAT is now an optional section, which is the essay portion.
The essay.
So we're now focusing on fewer categories of content and what matters, but also more of what's aligned in high school and what matters. But we're also covering those topic areas more deeply. So versus having kids skim the top, let's go deep, and let's go deep into things that really matter.
So are certain schools going to require the essay and others are not, or is it just optional when you come to take the test, you as a test taker decide if you want to do the essay? How's
Usually the
that
schools, you know, as you showed again earlier in the earlier essay questions, as the college admissions process has evolved, so has the test. So some schools may say, we still want you to take the essay, in which a student would respond by taking that portion of the test. Other schools don't require that.
How is the essay scored and by whom? Or is it machine scored, people scored?
It's scored, and it's scored outside of the traditional 1,600 point scale, and it's scored on a 6-point or 4 to 6 point scale. And that will be human scoring.
Human scoring, okay. Now, I've been reading, you know, about the new SAT, of course, as you probably have, of course, well, you know. And I know, in spite of the, maybe, diminishment of some of the vocabulary that is near and dear to my heart, there is a lot of reading. And there have been some people who've said there's maybe almost too much reading, that there's a lot of reading even for the math questions, and that maybe English language learners may find that they're going to be penalized in some way because there is a lot of reading. What's your take on that?
Well, first, there aren't as many words. There aren't more words than
there's easy words in the reading.
Not
people relax.
But really, the reading is now contextual. And I used to be a high school science teacher, and you know, folks would not believe that in science you're going to be doing some math, or that you're going to be doing as much reading in science.
But so you do.
You do, exactly. So again, we want the new exam to mirror what's happening in school and what's going to happen in college. So we want, you know, with chemistry, you actually have to read the passage to get to the math. So we wanted that to be reflective of what actually happens on the exam as well. So it's not just that there are more words, because there aren't. It's deeper reading to understand what you need to to problem solve, if you will.
And even for the reading, I think you put up online a reading passage, and I thought it was difficult. I mean, I took a look at it. I forget, it was about maybe America, the foundings of America. I forget what it was exactly, but I thought it was, you know, it required some thinking, and you really had to be aware of nuances. So I thought it was maybe tough, but
That's
I
a
thought it was
good
pretty
thing,
good.
right?
No, it wasn't. I mean, you know,
and I think one thing that's important is that what we've done now with the redesigned SAT is to put so much more information online. We don't want students for the first time to show up at a testing center and take an exam and say, whoa, what is this? You know, we put the information online. Students can now actually take real SAT type tests. We've partnered with the Khan Academy so they can become familiar with this type of content in addition to, or it's complementary to what they're already doing in school.
Let's go back then and take a look at that, because as you know, one of the criticisms of not only the SAT, but a lot of these tests is that, you know, the system is gamed. Those kids who have access to the best tutoring are going to do really well. It's not really a test of your aptitude or achievement. It's a test of
privilege.
Your privilege. It's you know, can your parents pony up and get you some tutoring? So I know that you've tried to do something major, I guess, really, to take away this this obstacle. Tell us a little bit about what the College Board is doing.
We're looking to do exactly what you said, which is level the playing field. We know all too often students who can't afford don't get access to the high-priced test practice or test prep industry, where they teach you the tricks, how to memorize this and how to memorize that. So what we've done is partner with Khan Academy, which is world-class free test practice.
What is Khan Academy? Let's take a step back. Who is Khan Academy?
Khan Academy was started by a gentleman named Solomon Khan, and what he did was initially teach via internet and videos, I believe his niece in another country. And from there, it wasn't just teaching you how to get an answer, but how to think about some of the concepts. So we've taken that, partnered with the Khan Academy, so now a student who takes any of the College Board's assessments, what we call our suite of assessments, they can get an indicator of where they are in terms of college readiness. If they link that with the Khan Academy, they get free, interactive, and engaging material that they can use to improve their score. So a student could say, you know what, I've done very well in evidence-based reading and writing, but Khan Academy is telling me behind my scores, I can improve in these two areas. So guess what? Productive practice toward those areas will help to improve my score in time and over time. And it's sort of like a game to them. Students flock to Khan Academy. We're meeting students where they are.
You say it's like a game.
It's like a game. I'm excited. I want to take the new SAT. I want to take the revised SAT, maybe one day.
The students out there chanting, go take it, go take it.
You know, but we're trying to get at exactly what you mentioned, where all too often it's just the students who got the best test prep performed better, and we didn't think that was fair. So again, changing the test to reflect what happens in the classroom, and now we're providing complementary materials such as Khan Academy.
And anyone can take advantage of the Khan Academy.
Correct. So anyone can take advantage of Khan Academy, and a student who's taken one of the College Board's assessments can get the free and personalized practice. So any student out there can sign up for Khan Academy, and you can be taught certain things.
We have some footage of Elizabeth Slavitt, who is the Director of Content for the Khan Academy, and I believe she gave a presentation at a College Board event where she discusses what Khan Academy does for students, and then we have some student feedback, those students who actually participated in some of the Khan Academy practices. So let's take a look.
But College Board and Khan Academy both knew that if we were going to do this, we couldn't just make free test prep. We needed to make the world's best test prep that just so happened to be free. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to take a crack at leveling the playing field. So we assembled a team of educators and designers, data scientists, and software engineers at Khan Academy. We put together a student advisory board so we could hear directly from students. We worked out some pilot plans with teachers, and College Board had many people from their team work with us as well. The people who actually write the exam itself were deeply embedded with our team, and we got to work. And earlier this year, we launched the first version of official SAT practice on Khan Academy. It starts out with a friendly welcome to students, letting them know what they're about to do, and then they can take a diagnostic. so that we can figure out where their strengths are and where their weaknesses are so they can best focus their time. And if students choose, they'll be able to link their College Board account and their Khan Academy account so that we can actually power the experience with their PSAT score information, tailoring it based on what they got right and wrong on that test. Students can practice a virtually unlimited set of questions on every skill type at every level on the SAT to gain familiarity and practice. And for every question, we'll tell them whether they got the answer right or wrong and provide an explanation of the right answer so that they can learn from it. It was really important to us in designing this that we were extremely transparent with students, letting them know at any time what level they're at, overall on math or overall on reading and writing, as well as skill by skill, so they knew exactly which areas they needed more work on and which areas they were already strong in, so that they can choose where to spend their time. We think that this type of information is extremely empowering to students, and it's one of the benefits of technology, and we want to make it accessible to students. It's not just practice problems, though. Students can also access videos and articles teaching them the fundamental skills and concepts covered on the SAT. Because we don't just want students to practice questions. The whole point of this is to make sure they learn the prerequisite knowledge, the fundamental concepts that will help them do well on the SAT, but also do well in college and beyond, right? That's the whole goal of this, is to make it a really rigorous and empowering learning experience, not just test prep. Students can do single item practice, they can read entire passages, and they can even do timed practice tests, where we'll keep track of their scores and then make recommendations for what to practice based on what they got right and wrong on the test. And then, of course, we have information about the test itself and tips from the College Board, the makers of the exam, and from tutors and fellow peers of the students. What we want is when students get to test day, they think, oh yeah, I've done this. I've taken multiple exams. I'm very familiar with the structure of it. I've practiced my skills. I know my strengths. I've filled in my gaps. Yeah, let's do this. I'm ready to rock this test. And so we're trying to guide them to get to that day feeling like it's a celebration of all the hard work they've done, all the practice they've put in, everything they've learned.
So starting about the second week of school, we began to implement 30 minutes a week in our language arts classes of using the Khan Academy resources. And then now the initiative has just taken off.
Khan Academy was probably the best way that I can use to study. My math was below par. Using Khan Academy, I built it up. It improved my scores dramatically.
Some people, they don't know what they're going to do with their futures, and Khan Academy, since it's helping me with all my reading skills and my math skills, it's really opening me up to more college options. Khan Academy was my solution, It was free and it was ready to go.
Khan Academy is what a $30 SAT prep book wishes it was.
Khan Academy is free. What? Yeah, it's free. Free learning.
Khan Academy really does level the playing field for all of our students. It gives them equal access to test prep, to questions, to a lot of different forms of text. So it gives them that one extra advantage that they didn't have before.
This obviously is some very positive student testimonial. Can I ask what kinds of other assessment you're going to be doing to assess the value of the Khan Academy approach?
Great question. Still obviously very new.
Right.
We announced our partnership with Khan Academy in 2014. Since then, the last 2 years, both teams have been working together to ensure a smooth transition. We've done some field testing since the first administration earlier this spring in March, and we've overwhelmingly found that it's been positive. One of the things that the video mentioned is oftentimes people associate the SAT or the PSAT with the score. What we're seeing with Khan Academy is behind the score, when students get their score reports, not only do they get the report, but it says exactly where you are in terms of readiness and how you can improve. So we're going to continue to refine as we refine the SAT, as we hear back from institutions when students get their scores in mid-May. So we'll continue to refine and evolve as we have, and I'm looking forward to it.
I mean, of course, for students, the score is obviously really important. I mean, they want their scores to go up. In terms of having online access, I know that some kids from disadvantaged communities, as much as this is free, you also need to have access to a computer. Is anything being done to ensure that, or are schools making this available as far as you know, or is College Board helping in some way?
Great question. So you're talking about the digital divide, and
Yeah,
we know that
that's
that's
what I'm talking about,
yeah,
right.
we know that's an issue. So what we've done, we've worked with great partners like the Boys and Girls Club, so many other college access organizations, school districts. You know what? Because school district administrators, they see the value in this.
Right.
So making the resources available to students during school, after school, and also in the respective communities we know will be important. So we always say we can build the best world-class test practice, but
if you can't
if we
get
can't
to
get all
it,
students to
right.
use it. So we know that this is a huge deal for us. We're working toward it every day.
We've talked about the PSAT in this conversation. Let's go back to it a little bit.
Great.
What's the value of the PSAT?
The value of the PSAT is the early indicator of awareness. So oftentimes, again, you get the score, it tells you whether or not you may get into the school that you want, but the PSAT, and we're actually backing this up a little bit, we're now going to offer a PSAT 8-9. So if you talk about college readiness, we don't want students to find out, we don't want parents to find out in 11th grade, oh wow, my student's not doing very well in terms of college readiness. But if I can help the educator, if I can help a teacher understand that in 9th grade, here's where most of my students are, and we have the College Board's provided certain resources to help them improve those skills, and I as a teacher know also where they are, I can help kids move along. Students and families can also provide whatever productive practice they need to ensure they're moving along the college readiness continuum. So it's an earlier snapshot, and that, we think that's very important as we developed our, what we call our suite of assessments, because each one's now connected, but they're also connected, each one is connected to a different opportunity. We don't want them to just be standalone assessments anymore.
Do you feel that your test is becoming closer to the ACT than it used to be? I know some people are saying that it is.
Good question, but they're still very different.
How are they different?
As I mentioned earlier, no longer are we covering an expansive number of concepts. You know, and I think that's the way some other entrance exams still are. We're covering fewer and just more in depth, if you will. And I think that's an important distinction. We're not saying let's become just like another test and cover the same exact materials. We're actually covering fewer, and we're covering more in depth because the research has shown us that these are the things that matter most for the college readiness and success moving forward.
So does the SAT predict achievement in college? I mean, do you feel it's a predictor of how students do?
I think combined with other admissions variables such as GPA, how much a student volunteers, the essay potentially, it's an important variable in the admissions process.
But you don't see it as the sole
as a sole,
determiner?
no, and as a College Board, we've never said, you know what, use the SAT score as a sole determinant whether or not you allow a student into your school. I think that would actually be irresponsible. So using it as one of the variables, I think is super important, since unfortunately at this point, we still have unequal high schools.
We do
so
indeed.
an A, of course, is not an A.
And that was one of the beginnings of the SAT, to make up for the fact that some of the kids weren't getting the right content education.
Exactly.
Quick question before we have to wrap up, and that is there are some schools that are saying they will be no longer using SAT or the ACT. They don't want to use these tests anymore. Why is it still relevant? Why should colleges still be giving these exams?
Great question. And I think it's a great opportunity for us to sort of clear up the misconception around schools that sort of say they're test optional. It doesn't mean that they don't accept the test. That means students have the option of sending those scores. And we've had an opportunity to actually look at some of those schools, and the vast majority of them are either open admission schools or schools that are two-year college or vocational school, and less so the schools that most students actually attend. And again, those schools still use those scores, and as a member organization, they're allowed to. Those schools still use those scores in their admissions decisions oftentimes.
So you're saying that the scores are still being used, whether or not they are mandatory, people will always accept them. Well, to me, that always gives for a student the burden, then maybe I really should take the exam. It's not quite as optional in my own mind as it would be if they just said don't send them.
Yeah. And I think every school is going to be different. So I wouldn't say every school is choosing not to or to go test optional for the same reasons, but I would dig a little more deeply into the list of schools and understand that most of them still accept it as a valid predictor.
So with just a few seconds to go, what would you like to see as an outcome of this newly revised SAT?
College readiness improve. I mean, that's at the heart of what we do. That's the reason why we've partnered with Khan Academy, linked our assessments. Super excited about working for an organization that over time has sought to deliver opportunity to students, still doing it today, Been doing it since 1900.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Wendell Hall of the College Board Policy Advocacy.
Thank you.
Don't go away. We'll be right back with our Ed Bites. Welcome back to this edition of Ed Bites. Last month, we reported that the U.S. had an international literacy ranking of number 7, coming in behind Nordic countries. The bad news continues. That ranking looks good compared to how low the U.S. ranks in math and technology. Young adults in the U.S. with a high school diploma lag behind high school dropouts in other countries. And when it comes to basic technology, such as using email or buying online, we did even worse, coming in last place right below Poland. Parents, educators, and researchers have long debated the reasons for the increase in diagnoses of ADD or ADHD. Research conducted in Iceland, Canada, Israel, and Sweden points to age as a major factor. Their studies indicate that the youngest children in each grade are 20 to 100% more likely to be diagnosed for the ailment. Doctors and experts point out that there are naturally occurring emotional and social developmental differences that are not symptomatic of ADHD. The underrepresentation of minority students in New York specialized high schools is a persistent problem. This year, even fewer received admission than last. Only 4% of admitted students were Black and 6% were Hispanic. To address this issue, Democrats in New York have introduced a $5 million package of initiatives to better prepare students of color for the elite high school entrance exams. In spite of perceptions that women are gaining parity in the workplace, they are actually far behind in income equality and leadership positions. Some experts believe the key reason for this is unconscious bias, shaped over many years through education, culture, and experience. They advise that organizations make conscious efforts to identify and recognize their biases, or there will be no real change. That's it for this edition of EdCast. Till next time, class dismissed.